honey.
Can you see me? God damn it.
I can see you.
So over this day. This day is the weirdest day. Hi, Andrea.
I know, and anyone who says Mercury retrograde is not real is a fucking liar.
No, I never believed in that shit until today.
Yeah.
Like, today is the day. So everybody, hi. We tried to go live on Instagram and it was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So instead, we're like, let's just do old-fashioned Zoom, get on. We have reliable technology. So let's start again. This is our friend Andrea. Andrea is someone that I really wanted to introduce to everybody because she started off, interestingly enough, as one of my clients several years ago. Yes?
Yes. Well, I started off as obsessed with your blog before that, but yes.
Yay! Yeah, she was building at that point her massive empire of bar studios in New England, which are called Bar and Soul. You've got how many studios now?
5 locations.
5 locations. You guys, we think we're hot shit with internet businesses. This is hot shit right here with actual 5 brick and mortar locations.
Thank you.
So would you say you're doing pretty well in the business world?
Yeah, it's going amazing. It's kind of hard to believe considering, once upon a time, I didn't even think I could be an entrepreneur because I didn't, have a trust fund. So.
Yeah, tell me about it. And I mean, that's a really important point because one of the things that I know to be true about you is that you are as scrappy as they come.
Mm-hmm.
Started off, let's go down the list. Teen mom.
Mm-hmm. Domestic violence survivor. I even was like a teen runaway. I used to sleep in those Salvation Army clothing dumpsters when I was 14. So yeah, I've kind of been through it all. I ended up discovering bar and starting to teach that in my late 20s and then simultaneously working on a women's studies degree. And right around the time I turned 30 is when I graduated. I had 2 kids by then. And I actually really wanted to be a women's studies professor because I wanted to make a difference and reach as many women and just be a part of the conversation. I wanted to publish books, actually. And I actually had an epiphany one day in a bar class where I was like, wait a minute, what if this isn't just my part-time job? Like, what if I could reach women and have all the impact that I'm looking to have? And what if this was my platform to do that? Because I've got a room full of 20 women who are, they might be here working out, but like, I could say anything to them right now. Like I could try to inspire them. I could tell them that they're really fucking powerful and that they can create whatever they want in their lives and that like what they want actually matters and not to let anybody, take that away from them. And so I ended up just deciding to eventually start my own business and just create a culture of not only fitness, but empowerment. And, but there was that part of me that always still really wanted to write a book. So that's what I did.
Can we just be clear about the fact that every time you say bar class, I definitely picture you making cocktails for at least a split second. And then I'm like, oh wait, that's not what we're talking about here.
Carry on. You're not that far off.
Yes. So you are someone that I think has a great rags to riches entrepreneurial story.
Thank you.
And it's legit. I mean, it is legit hard scrabble stuff that you went through. And in order to get what you have today, you've taken a lot of chances on yourself.
Yeah.
You are the epitome of the woman I always say is brave enough to be disobedient and to cause problems. That's something that I'm really hot on. This idea of actually causing problems for yourself. It doesn't sound like a really warm and fuzzy concept,
right.
But for me as a woman, I think it's important to get to the next step, whatever it is. You have to be willing to struggle a little bit and have some problems in your life in order to get there. Yes. So that brings me to Andrea's book, which is why we're really here to talk about the book. It's called Own It All, which is a great title. It's available on Amazon today. So you can march your little self over there. Get a copy. I had to pre-order a copy and wait, but you can get it today. I think you have a copy in your lap. Is that nice?
I do. And also, I just want to say there is an interview with Ash in the book, which I was so excited to include you in the diverse group of voices that were included. And I wanted to tell my story absolutely about how I overcame being a teen mom and surviving domestic violence and like living on food stamps to kind of starting to just rebuild my life, find my voice, and eventually build a business. I wanted to share that story, but I wanted to make sure that it was relatable to whoever reads it and that I had a lot of other voices as well. And I wanted to make sure it was super actionable. So every chapter ends with essentially workbook pages and like really doable steps for the reader to take to actually put it into practice.
Yeah, I enjoyed going through that, and I usually skip that part, so that says a lot. I mean, that was a really interesting thing just to have you. It's a really great prompt that you have at the back of every single chapter. And yes, I am in the book, which is very cool. Very
so cool. And yes, you're right. I just got my first copy. I've been seeing people post pictures of theirs online all day, and I was really jealous because they beat me to it. Ta-da!
There it is! And you look so hot on the cover. Can we talk about that?
Thank you. This is a stunt double. It's not actually me.
You're right. I know it's going to sell like hotcakes. I mean, look at that. So how long did it take you, Andrea, from start to finish? From the moment you were like, I'm going to write a book till now?
2 years, basically. I mean, I've been saying I'm going to write a book, since I was a little kid, probably since way before I knew I wanted to own bar studios, really. But yeah, it took about 2 years, and from, conceptualizing and I don't mind being really super transparent about the fact that I worked with a ghostwriter to get started on this project because I want to empower other people. I mean, I know a lot of your audience are like fabulous writers who can just sit down and bang shit out, but that is so not me. Writing is laborious for me. I do absolutely consider myself a writer, but I'm also more an entrepreneur than a writer. So I like to get shit done. I'm not very patient with the whole process. So, and the other thing is like, I kept talking about writing a book, but I was like, what is stopping me from actually doing it? And I realized, I don't know how. Like, I really don't fucking know what I'm doing. And how did I start my business when I didn't know how? I found people who knew what they were doing. So I realized like, God, I got to hire somebody who knows how to write a book because otherwise I'm never going to get going on this. And so I found an amazing ghostwriter. She and I sat down for a couple of days and we just like brainstormed and outlined together. And she would like ask me to tell stories and she would take notes. And so then she would like draft a chapter and turn it around and send it back to me and be like, how does this sound? What do you think? And I'd be like, ooh, yes or no, or whatever. And so eventually that's how we got the first draft done, which took almost honestly like a year. And then at the end of that process, I think is when I started to reach out and be like, okay, I want other voices in each of these, because it's set up by chapter, by topic. So it's like, own your time, own your career, own your goals. And then I just found a bunch of really kick-ass women who I felt like really embodied each of those things and began to send out the interviews. I have to say, like, the actual gathering of the interviews and coordinating and wrangling everybody, that was actually the hardest part of writing this book. Maybe I should have had like a VA or somebody to help me with that part, because it was really actually a lot to keep track of. And I'm, like I said, I'm more of like a creative entrepreneur. I'm not like a box ticking kind of person. And it was very meticulous to round all of that up from everybody. But I went through and read every page of the book and re-edited and did a lot of rewrites. I would say 4 times, like, start to finish, just going in and like rewriting, editing, adding, tweaking, changing. So that took about another year. And yeah, I got a offer from Mango Publishing around Thanksgiving 2017. And actually took me 3 months to even respond, because I didn't expect that to happen so fast. I mean, I didn't just like not respond at all, but I was kind of like, okay, thank you. Let me like go find out if this offer is even any good, because I don't even know what a good book offer looks like. So it all came to fruition in a way faster than I expected, but in a way 2 years is probably longer than I expected, but the day is finally here.
Oh no, I mean, I feel like 2 years, yeah, that would be probably the bare minimum. I've been surprised myself just how long it really does take.
Yeah.
Only for all the other stuff, but really just get your ideas down on paper in a way that you like.
Yes.
So that was nice that you had help in a way. I'm wondering if it was easier for you, or was it harder because then you had to filter yourself through someone else?
Mm. You know, the part that was a lot easier about it is it got me started, and it got enough chunk of it started that I was able to be like, okay, I can't not finish it now. We have a good first draft, even if it's not perfect, even if I do want to change it, like I can't abandon this project at this point. There's too much already down on paper. So I think that was really, really insanely helpful. And also I just didn't know how to organize my thoughts. Like I love being on podcasts because people just ask questions and then you just like tend to know the answers because usually questions about you. And but yet like writing a blog post where it has to have a beginning, middle, and an end, like structuring pieces of writing is really hard for me. Like I imagine for you, because you're a writer, is probably a lot easier. But for me, I didn't know how to structure a book or even a chapter. So I'm so glad I got that push in the beginning from working with someone who knew their shit.
You guys hearing this? I hope this is giving every single one of you permission to do whatever it takes to get the damn thing done, whether that is hiring someone else, which might feel unconventional for some people, but you hit the nail on the head. Is that the phrase?
Mm-hmm.
You hit the nail on the head with that idea of like, I probably wouldn't have done this at all if I had just let myself fester.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I said that on stage. I was like doing a keynote at a women's summit last year, and somebody was like, I can't believe you just said on stage that you used a ghostwriter. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be a dick about it and have everybody thinking that like I, you know, blew out my own hair this morning and I like wrote every page of my own book. Like I get help with the things I need help with, you know?
I love that. I love that. I love that. Which brings me to my favorite piece of advice in this book. It's so interesting to me because the book has a big title. It's Own It All. Dun, dun, dun. Own it all. And yet one of my favorite little tidbits that I found in there that I just wanted to scoop up and like be like, ooh, hang on to that, was this idea that one of the things that can help you own it all is actually quite contradictory to what you would think. It's not always about going big or going home, but rather doing what you call the bare minimum. So could you expand a little bit about that? How a person, especially someone starting with nothing, can go from that to owning it all by doing the bare minimum?
Absolutely. I mean, an example of that was when I was doing those many rounds of edits to my manuscript. If, you know, if I looked for an entire day to block out to work on the book, it would feel so overwhelming and I wouldn't do it, or even multiple hours. But what I started doing was just blocking out 1 hour in my calendar every morning before I checked email or did anything else. 1 hour didn't feel daunting. I could do an hour. And even sometimes I would kind of like dick around and only end up doing 15 or 30 minutes. But at least I was doing something. It was the opposite of overwhelm. So, I mean, you are talking to a perfectionist. And for me, I could go so overboard with anything and everything that I do. Doing the bare minimum is literally just like chucking the middle finger at perfectionism, basically, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that as women, we are supposed to be so fucking awesome at everything. We're supposed to be like in shape and like gorgeous and like rich and successful. And we're supposed to like have kids and be great moms, but like stay home and pay all this attention to your kids, but don't do that because you should be working and having an awesome career. And it's like, you're supposed to be fucking everything and amazing all the time. And it's like, I want to be at least good at everything, but I can't probably be amazing at everything. So this kind of allows you to say like, all right, I'm not going to let my health like totally go to hell in a handbasket. I'm not going to let my style or like my closet or my house go to hell in a handbasket. I'm going to figure out what the bare minimum is for me to have all of that be okay. You know, what I can live with, and then take all that extra energy and funnel it into like what I'm going full steam ahead on.
I love it. And I love that as someone who is very black and white. I am the queen of black and white. It is a fatal flaw in which I'm either doing something or not doing it at all. Yes. Pretty much everything in my life, in some ways, that has served me greatly. Like if I'm doing a book or if I'm doing a project, I am doing the fucking project. But in other ways, when it comes to things like physical fitness, I have always struggled because I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this every day for 1 hour straight. That's what I used to do when I was in college and everything was great and honky-dory back then. So I'm going to do that now. And then day 3 comes along and I'm like, yeah, no, sure, I'll go to the beach or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fall off track, right?
I don't know if you've read Atomic Habits, but it's kind of that same idea of like, you need to start so much smaller than you think you want to start. Like, it's got to be such a slam dunk so that you can build some momentum around it. And often you'll do more than the bare minimum that you set out to do, but you kind of trick yourself into like, okay, well, 15 minutes of working out isn't so bad, or 5 minutes, or like a 1-minute plank or something, just to kind of just to combat that all or nothing mindset.
I think that's so important. And I think it really sounds like that's kind of what you did with your book as well. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit every single day. Yep. Something that I have done well in the past is the same thing. Getting up, and before I can do anything else, I have to focus on the thing that matters the most for the day. Mm-hmm. So I was good in that capacity, but yeah. I'll still work on the physical fitness. And I'm still coming to New England for a barre class.
Please.
That is happening.
It is worth the trip.
If you guys buy her book, you get a complimentary online barre class from Andrea, which I was really excited about. I was like, oh, totally taking that.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Yes, you do get to take a class with me at my studio in Harvard Square online. And you also get this meditation that I'm obsessed with, where you journey out into the future 10 years and you look around and invent what you'd like your life to look like, which I love doing because it's really good for goal setting to think longer term, because it kind of seems like, okay, in 10 years, I could probably do a lot, whereas if you think about just setting your goals for this year, sometimes you get bogged down in like all the obstacles that might prevent you from doing big things. So I love thinking long-term and thinking big picture. So yeah, I have a meditation for you as well as that free class.
I'm in. Soak up all of your wisdom while I can. Actually, another thing I really liked in your book, now that I'm thinking about it, was that story that you told about the first time you took your resume and handed it to the woman at Exhale. Mm-hmm. So in Andrea's book, Own It All, she starts talking about a time when she was really scared. And I want to ask you a little bit more about that, because I know that so many of us here struggle with this mean girl on the playground who I always picture her that way, which is imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And not knowing if you're good enough to do this thing.
Yeah.
Because you have such an interesting background and you went from hard Scrabble to like multi-million-dollar badass entrepreneur, I'm wondering how imposter syndrome has played a role in everything that you've done. And specifically, did you feel like an imposter that day when you were handing that woman your resume?
Oh my God. So I brought a visual aid for this question that I'm very excited to share with you in a second. But but yes, the answer is yes. And even just being a barre teacher for the first time, like I really didn't have a fitness background, or a dance background, unless you count working at a strip club. So I really felt like an imposter, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm not a leader. Who am I to get up in front of a room full of women? Like, my life is upside down. I'm cleaning up a huge mess. I'm like on food stamps. I'm trying to figure out my life. And, even practicing on my own, just trying to push my voice out to even practice getting my words out, the voice in my head was so loud, being like, just shut up, just shut up, just shut up. And it took so much to just like force myself to even get up and teach like a mock class to a few friends at first, or to teach my first public class. And then walking into a really high-end, swanky, gorgeous fitness spa in Boston and handing over my resume was fucking terrifying, because I wanted it so bad. And, I didn't go there like the next day after I got trained in barre. Like, I got a year and a half of teaching under my belt before I went there. And in fact, to be honest, like, after that, when my next kind of career move from there, I knew in my heart I wanted my own studio. And I had an opportunity to buy the studio I had trained at in the suburbs. I didn't even write about that in the book. But at the same time, I was interviewing for a manager job at this spot in Boston. And I went with the management job because I didn't believe in myself enough yet to own a studio. It's like, I didn't believe I had the cred. I didn't believe I had the experience. I needed the steady paycheck a while longer. So like, this is all to say, I have a slogan that I put in my book, which is called just take the biggest risk you can stomach today. Like when I had my first chance to own a studio, I did not have the stomach for that yet. And you're taking the biggest risk you can stand for now. Like going and handing her my resume, like I was supposed to go to her class beforehand, and I think I like self-sabotaged and like got there late and like ended up just sitting in the Starbucks, like spazzing out, drinking a coffee and getting all riled up. But you know, when I ever walked in and marched in there and gave her my resume, like it meant so much to me that I couldn't even bear to email it because I was afraid if I didn't hear back, I would be like, did she even get it? Like whatever happened, should I follow up? So like I had to march in there and just hand it to her. But you know, insecurity it's kind of just like this little asshole that follows you around. And if you keep doing the next biggest thing that you can stand, if you've got butterflies, if you're scared, like it is a sign you're doing something that really matters to you. And that fear is not going to go away unless you want to start playing it safe. So this is the visual aid I wanted to share with you. I keep this tacked up to my bulletin board. This is like the big me that I want to see myself as. And this is from Austin Powers.
Oh my gosh!
This is just my insecurities, just tagging along and being like, no one's going to read your book. No one's coming to your launch party. You suck. And I just remind myself that like when that voice is happening in my head, like it's just this little fella, you know, and this is the big me. Like I can kind of step back into being my bigger self and just remember that like, this is just going to be there. It's just like always going to be there. It's coming with me wherever I go. It's all good.
Can you please somehow get that little guy and a cutout and just start selling them on your website so we can all buy one? I'm lining up. That's amazing. What a great visual aid.
I really needed it with this book launch because it's so fucking vulnerable and it's so scary. And I'm sure you're going through that too with writing your book, that you're like, holy shit, I am so afraid that people are going to read this. And I'm so afraid people are not going to read this. Like, I don't even know what I'm afraid of more.
Well, I mean, what you had said just a second ago, really, I mean, just hit me like right here when you said this little voice in your head that's like, just shut up, just shut up, just shut up. Don't say it wrong. If it's going to come out weird. I mean, I remember thinking all of those things, especially when I was just starting off trying to make brave decisions and do big things.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you wrote about that I also wrote about in mine, which I mean, maybe is just the sign that you guys should listen to this piece of advice, was like thinking back to evidence that you have in your own self of the stuff that you've done, which is like a way bigger deal than some of the stuff you're scared to do today.
Totally.
You know?
Yes.
Like you've done a lot of stuff and you just don't remember it because you know that negativity bias?
Mm-hmm.
All of the bad stuff, but never the good stuff. It's why women get back with these dickhead ex-boyfriends. Like they don't remember the bad stuff, only the good stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Never mind.
And you know, that's the whole point of like taking the biggest risk that you can stomach for now. Because here's the thing, like when you do scary shit that terrifies you, you're not going to succeed every time, but you're going to succeed sometimes. And every time you succeed, you earn your own self-respect. You're like, holy shit, that was kind of badass. Like, I'm going to try something a little bit even scarier next. And I'm going to try this other thing. Cause like you've proved to yourself that you're a fucking badass and you already just did that last scary thing. And now you've got that evidence to take with you into the next appropriate risk that you can stand to take on.
Yeah, I really like that too. This idea of earning your own self-respect. I think that owning it all, if I had to put it into words, might be about that, isn't it? Earning your own self-respect to kind of get to the next step and the next step and the next step. And then whatever everybody else thinks about you, like, doesn't even matter. It's what you think about yourself.
Yeah. It's
right?
that radical personal responsibility. It's choosing yourself. It's not waiting for permission. It's not waiting to be picked. And I'm sorry, but like I don't believe in affirmations. Like I don't think you can stand in the mirror and just be like, I'm a fucking rock star. I'm a CEO. If you don't have any evidence of that yet, I don't think that's useful, honestly. I think you've got to prove it to yourself. You've got to get out there and start where you can stand and build from there.
Yeah. I think it's helpful to remember too that you can always kind of rewind and go back. If you really totally fuck it up and you need to go back to your old job, chances are good that you can probably get it back, and you can probably get it back. I mean, it's not really the end of the world. I love
You can trust yourself to figure it out.
Yeah. So tell me now, what is like the vibe in the Barre studio? Do your students know that you've written this book? Are they aware? Are they going to buy it? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's just been so exciting to see, like, my Instagram stories has just been blowing up today, and people have just been so great about sharing. And I've had a little early reader group where we had our own little private Facebook group, and a lot of the members were in that and just sharing their goals, like, you know, declaring what they're taking on in their lives, and also owning up to the places where they've been waiting for permission or where they've been waiting to be picked, and where they're going to step up and own it and really choose themselves and give themselves permission. So it's been amazing. I have a launch party happening at my Harvard Square studio next Wednesday night, March 20th, and I can't wait.
That is so cool. It must feel really nice to have that in-person support with all of these women who have been along this journey with you, I'm sure for many years, some, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. And yet my book has just been like this weird little thing in the background that I've been working on somewhat in secret, and it feels so good to finally have people get to read it and hear that it's making a difference for them, because it's not very gratifying during the stretch where no one's read your book yet and you're just like working your ass off on it. So it's really nice to finally hear that it's making a difference for people.
I can relate. I feel like past 2 years, I thought my team thought I was lying to them. Like, yeah, sure, you're working on your book. You're just slacking off over there. You're just not logging on. I'm like, no, really, I'm doing this thing over here. Yet. It is like a ghost.
Yeah.
So what's going to be next? Are you thinking to pursue writing, speaking? Do you just want to like go full speed ahead with the Barre studios?
You know, I love public speaking. I really love public speaking. So I do have some things lined up this year. I'm presenting at the World Barre Fitness Summit in October. I'm presenting at Mind Body Bold, which is a big conference for fitness business owners. I'm doing like a Well Summit event, so a variety, and some other women's summits, women's entrepreneur summits. So I love conferences and events. They're so fun. It's such a great opportunity to network and get in touch with other women leaders. So that's definitely high on my list. I do have an 8-week challenge group that's going to kick off, and we're going to do a private Facebook community and some coaching calls, and that'll be super fun. And I have to be honest, like I love opening studios. I just love the brick and mortar. I love physically gathering with women and seeing them supporting each other and getting, you know, not only in better shape physically, but creating community. So I gotta say, I'm dying to open another studio. That's my next project that I'll probably take on.
Oh my God, I love your life. When I first met Andrea, the whole reason I wanted to work with her on her copy back then was because she was the antithesis of kind of like the image I always had of your typical yoga bar instructor wearing like ballet pink and drinking a green smoothie. I mean, green smoothies are great, but I loved her because she had edge and she had sass, and she was somebody who was kind of interrupting this industry in a way that would really disrupt, I mean, everything in New England. I think you did a great job of that. And so I personally am someone who is going to keep following your ass all the way home, baby. I'm with you.
I'm going to stalk you as well. Philly's totally on my radar, just so you know, because we are moving down the coast little by little.
Come down. I will definitely be there. I'll man the fort. I can go to Barre class. It's so exciting. Yeah, I have to research that. Where I just bought an apartment in Old City, I don't think there's a lot of gyms. Well, and now, I mean, now that I'm on my new 15 minutes a day workout plan. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us about your book. Everybody who's watching, seriously, go grab this. This is something that you will want to read, especially if you are someone who's been through the hard, who's going through the hard, if you're having any kind of self-doubt, you want to do something bigger, but you're scared, which I think is all of us. We've all got big plans back there, and there's always that little fucking voice, the little guy. What is he, Dr. Evil? Is that his name?
It's Mini-Me.
Mini-Me. Who was Dr. Evil? Why am I confused?
Oh, I mean, this is this is Dr. Evil's Mini-Me. So if I had a big Mike Myers, then it would all make sense. But all I have is his little mini me.
I have seen a lot of movies. No, really, you need to sell those in the shop. I'll be first in line to buy them. Thank you so much, Miss Isabelle Lucas, for joining us today. Mwah! I wish you all the luck in the world with the book.
Thank you. And just thanks so much for being a part of it. And thanks for chatting with me today. You are amazing.
When you guys go buy her book, definitely flip to the end. I'm back there.
Mm-hmm.
I adore you.
You too.